This begins with a mob pit, which is used to collect the sand drilled out from the well and also to recycle the water back and from the drilling process. The 3 standing metals are used for the drilling edges and to carry the engines for the pump. The engine has been installed within the 3 standing metals. This is the engine rotating the metals while drilling the rocks and dirt. The passage of the water from the driller to the mob pit must be spacious enough to direct the water straight to the mob pit. Water has been pumped into the mob pit, which is used for the drilling process. To avoid casualties, the 3 metals must be well installed. After the 3 metals are well installed into the ground, then the rope ties them together, which makes it firm not to detach during the drilling process, which may cause injury to the worker or delay in the progress. The pumper and the pipe are also fixed to begin drilling. And here comes the main well driller, which is called the cutting bits. It has 4 edges, which is attached to other metals by rotating forces itself down through the soil, dirt, and rocks until it reaches the desired sand. The pumping machine is primed to begin drilling. After, the pumping machine sends water from the mob pit to the driller, as this is to give easy drilling down the earth. The drilling machine also pumps out sand from the well, which creates the borehole out to the mob pit. Now the driller is in process, bringing the first sand through the drilling point to the passage going into the mob pit. The engine of the driller should be working constantly to keep the metal drilling active. They are controlled by winding up and down to smoothen the sides of the borehole while the driller is tearing the earth and removing the sand. The mob pit constantly receives different kinds of sandy waters. A worker stands on the drilling engine to add force to penetrate the easily, as the earlier stage of the drilling is tougher. This is because the sand layers differ from one to the other. The drilling passage must be spacious for the sandy water to go to the mob pit while the drilling is ongoing. Sands from the drilling point are constantly collected by the workers to determine their progress. This is done to keep records of the stage of water reached. For the case of this well, 17 metal drillers were used. Once the reaches this point, it should be changed to another one so that the process can continue at this point. The 3 standing metals are constantly lubricated for easy slide of the engine carrier to go up and down. The metals are lubricated from the top so that the oil goes down while the drilling is ongoing. The driller keeps creating a hole with a width between 100 to 500 millimeters diameter. In this case, was a 200 millimeters diameter created. That is the wideness of the drilled hole. At this point, the water is usually muddy and thick like an erosion washing down the earth. The lubrication is continued because of the surface of the metal that carries the engine. The worker standing on the engine must be careful not to step on the engine fans or the heated part of the engine. This is one of the hazards of this job. The driller continues as the drilling metals are changed until the desired sand is reached. Dry sand is constantly poured around the working areas, so keep dry ground to step on. This is also a safety measure. When reached this point, the pipe metal connected to the drilling metals is detached for another drilling metal to be attached. To continue the drilling down for at least 170 feet deep using about 17 to 10 feet tall drilling metals. Added to the point of drilling metal to continue the process. The mob pit at this stage should be emptied of the sand and muddy water for the right sand and water to be detected while the drilling continues. Without this done, the driller changes the sand to cleaner water while the mob pit keeps the muddy water mixed and the process to detect cleaner sand is not observed. The mob pit should be empty of the mud waters to know the sands coming out of the driller. The drilling metals are changed and workers wind the holding cables up and down to keep the surface smooth. At this stage, the mob pit is emptied and ready to complete the remaining process. This process takes about 8 hours depending on the worker's diligence and professionalism. Drilling continues, the mob pit gets emptied of muddy sand and then the water. At this stage, the mob pit is emptied and ready to complete the remaining process. 200 millimeters diameter is drilled and deep down about 100 feet at this stage. We continue the drilling process, and at this stage, the water discovered is milky and lighter than earlier. The whole process is finished now, and 17 metal drillers were sunk into the earth. The types of sand discovered so far. Different colors and textures. 17 different textures as you can see them. At this stage, the ocean and beach type sand indicate the right sand for the desired water. The texture is white and perfect for the right water. Now we should remove all the metal drillers to complete the drilling process. Since 17 were used, so 17 should be removed using a holder tight to the drilling metals, and while 2 workers winds the cable rotor to pull it up. It is detached from the one down and pulled up, and the process continues until all the metal drillers are removed. This is done until the metal driller with the cutting bit is removed. This is the main driller, called the cutting bit. This is all for the drilling, and the next is called the wheeling process. No engine is needed as it is done manually with the hands and cable rotors, also with the pumping machine. The wheeling process is to smoothen the sides of the borehole to keep it walled so that the borehole does not collapse as a result of shaking of the earth. The same drilling process for the metals is put into play, but the cutting bit for wheeling is different from the drilling cutting bit. The same 17 drilling metals will be used to wheel down the well's walls. Small tin pipes about 15 feet high are prepared, which supplies water to the accommodations and the environment. An extender chemical of about 5 teaspoons is obtained for the purification of the water. The extender chemical is poured into the pumping pipes in the mob pit, which goes straight into the borehole and so purifies the water to become better and cleaner gradually. The top of a perforated pipe is burned to seal the tip that will be at the depth of the borehole. 8 big pipes of about 103 millimeters diameter and 15 feet high is used for the water reservoir or collector. The main purpose is to collect clean water and store it for the small pipes to get water and supply the accommodations. The first 2 of the pipes are perforated to collect clean water from the well to the other pipes. A rope is tied to the big pipes, which is used to suspend the pipe down to the well. The sides of the big pipe are perforated for clean water to pass through inside. This is done to store water in it. After the extender chemical is poured into the wells through the mob pit pumping machine pipe, a white water result is seen. The water may not yet be clean, but the chemical purifies it from that point. And the wheeling metal is removed, which is the last process of the wheeling stage. The next stage is the installation of the 2 perforated pipes about 103 millimeters in diameter and 15 feet high are used for the water reservoir or collector. The main purpose is to collect clean water and store it for the pumping engine to get water. The ropes are tied professionally to keep the pipes in check for the installation to be perfect. Then the 2 perforated pipes are first installed and the other 6 big pipes are installed one after the other. This process continues until the last pipe is installed and cut to a desired height, which ends the pipe installation process. These were cutting bits that drilled and wheeled the borehole. They cost a lot but also do a lot. The next stage is the installation of the pump and the small pipes. The pump is expected to be about 1 horsepower capacity. A rope is also tied to the pump, which will be used to suspend the pump down to the well. This is done to keep the pump in check and not to be lost in the deep. The small pipes about 15 feet high will be screwed to the pump. The pump is suspended into the borehole while the rope is used to send it down professionally. Then the small pipes are fastened to themselves to keep the pump going down until the desired depth is reached. The electric cable and the rope attached to the pump are in check for the desired length. The rope is shortened to keep the pump in its position and tied to the covered plate on top of the big pipe. Then the pump electric regulator is fixed to pump out the dirty water. While a pipe is fixed to the pipe, the pump is powered and the water first discovered from the pump is brownish, and after a while of about 30 minutes, milky water comes out. Then you can see the water change to white and clean water gradually. Next is the electricity installation and the supply of water pipes process. The electricity power is installed to pump at the desired time. The pipes are installed to supply water to the big tanks for usage in the accommodation. The water can be pumped into the storage tank of about 1,000 liters in less than 10 minutes. And this is the expected desire of whole trouble. To bring clean water from the heart of the earth must have gone through these simple steps. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and like our broadcast page.